Hello there and welcome to a Newsfirst special segment that we have organized here at our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you this segment, I'm Jayamal Rathnayake for the Newsfirst team. Today we will be discussing about a very important element in our lives, regardless of which walk of life you are from, which stage of life you are in, but more particularly this applies if you are in the corporate sector, if you are an adult who is running a 9-to-5 job, and if you are involved in a lot of matters and trying to balance out life between work and your personal responsibilities, I believe this particular matter will be of importance to you. Tonight we will be talking about motivation, what motivates people, and finding your purpose, finding the right fit for you in your life. To discuss this, we have a very special guest in our studios tonight. She is Ashley Davis from the Ashley Davis Collective. A very good day to you, Ashley, and welcome on to the show.
Hi, Jayamal. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
So, Ashley, as I said in my opening remarks, I want to talk to you first about motivation. We know there are different ways different people are motivated. Some are motivated monetarily, some have innate motivation to achieve success and whatnot. And we know in the academic strata, people like Abraham Maslow have defined what motivates people, especially through Maslow's theory, the hierarchy of needs. But you have identified a more unique perspective of what motivates people and how people can introduce or identify their purpose in life. You have been in the corporate sector for quite some time of your life, but you have made a big pivot from that to come to Sri Lanka and to explore what the true purpose of life and the meaning that it has to you. So can you just give our viewers a brief introduction of how that change happened, how you decided to make that switch from a corporate life to a more laid-back, purposeful life of feeling alive, or like you say, the element of aliveness. So can you tell us about what made you come here?
I blame Sri Lanka. So I spent 15 years in the corporate sector, working primarily for one of Nike's companies in sustainability and impact and supply chains. Spent a lot of time in Asia and really cared about changing systems within capitalism to help be this power for good. And maybe I got a little bit frustrated, maybe I got a little bit exhausted, maybe I got a little bit burned out. But I designed quite a long supply chain trip at one point, and this was about 6 years ago. I was in the middle of a fellowship with the Aspen Institute, which is for entrepreneurs within companies that kind of try to create change outside of their wheelhouse and have quite a bit of influence. But I designed this long trip to, roll out a program in the supply chain, but also something for myself, which was this question of, what am I really here for? What is the work that I really want to be doing, and is this what it is supposed to feel like every single day? This sort of exhaustion and frustration that I was feeling. And I was working in India, and Sri Lanka was nearby. And so I ended up coming to Sri Lanka for a couple weeks of, it was surfing and yoga, and surfing scared me, and yoga at the time was a little bit like, I was very much into exercise, very motivated by exercise and health, but slow yoga wasn't really my thing at the time.
Yeah.
I do it now, but and there was something about the experience here in Sri Lanka that really moved and changed me. So back to the question of purpose and motivation, what I felt here, so this was traveling, this was having an experience that I had curated and designed for myself to really challenge myself to get outside of my comfort zone.
Right.
And so I think this is how we discover what motivates and moves us, is when we step out of what is known. And I felt joy. I felt this experience. It was this like full body experience of joy, of what I now maybe call aliveness, and that I think is also very much connected to a sense of presence. And we have so little of this in our 9-to-5 daily work that it's difficult to step outside of ourselves or pause and really ask those big questions of what am I here for and who am I? And so taking a pause. I wasn't just it wasn't just a yoga retreat. It wasn't just, sitting in the jungle, which now I think is absolutely phenomenal. And it gave me this pause, this time to reflect and really listen for answers and really live into answers of what am I here for. And so this bodily, I use the word embodied, and I talk a lot about somatics and now neuroscience, but it was this embodied feeling of joy, and it felt like, wow, nobody ever told me this is important. No one ever taught me that maybe this could be something that motivates. Maybe this could be really powerful, even in a business setting. I don't necessarily encourage people to go off and live in their hammocks as much as my happy
to quit
place.
their jobs and
No,
relocate to a totally different country. Yes,
right. I mean, maybe I've done a little bit of that myself, but to really find what motivates us, I think, is an experience, is experiential, and it's going to be highly unique to each person. But I think this concept of, for me, it was joy. For someone else, it might be freedom, or whatever it is, that's what connected with me. And it was, I don't think I've seen this modeled a lot in the world. And how might we use this experience of what feels good to motivate the risks we're taking to live in alignment with our personal and social values, for example, or to drive change in companies. I'm a self-identified change maker within business. I was always I'm a corporate rebel. A little bit different from the rest of the pack.
Right.
And what drives us? And so when we're driven by different things, we also have this diversity of ideas and concepts and ways to innovate and create new things within companies. And so my brain started connecting, like, wow, I'm having this experience of joy through the, a little bit, I was a little bit afraid even, built this trip, came on my own. And really when we step outside of that comfort zone and we have a full body experience, I think there's a lot of truth in that versus reading a book or someone puts a corporate value on the wall and you say, okay, I'm going to get behind that. It's like you can really know what's yours when you have the experience.
So Ashley, before we move into talking more about the template or the model that you have designed here, I want to ask you, and I think this will be very beneficial for our viewers, especially the entrepreneurs, leaders who require motivation because there are so many in the hierarchy who rely on them. And leaders are required to be constantly motivated, constantly innovate, and that comes with a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
And they at times can feel overwhelmed because at the end of the day, they too are human. But how does a leader ensure that their motivational levels are at their peak, they're firing on all cylinders, or should they every now and then take a step back, rejuvenate themselves, and then go back to their work in a more fresh perspective?
The short answer is yes to the latter. But how? I think so. These qualities, I work very regularly with these qualities and mindsets of courage and curiosity, which are wonderful qualities to have within business, particularly as entrepreneurs, academics, founders, whatever.
Yes.
All of it. And again, back to that, my aha of I haven't seen joy modeled as a motivation. As is it really okay to feel this? Taking a pause, an intentional pause, which may look like in the middle of which may look like a career break, may look like a sabbatical, but a pause can literally be a breath. It can be as short as 10 seconds. So, I'm talking about any length of time here. And I think that takes a lot of courage because it is not encouraged, it's not modeled. It's how quickly can you get things done, how many, what is, we're so focused on efficiency, but what if when we are intentional and we pause and we reflect, what if we get true productivity and true efficiency? And what if we're moving so quickly that we're undermining this? So yeah, I'll continue to reference these qualities of courage and curiosity. So the courage to take a pause, to step back. And that doesn't have to be a sabbatical length step back or an entire career change. That could be a breath before a meeting, or it could be a daily meditation, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's on the mat or a few minutes of yoga, or it's walking the dog or riding a horse. but I think it takes a lot of courage to take that pause,
Okay.
to re-energize and to refocus. And with all of the pressures that leaders face, it's so, I see it almost as a responsibility. Actually, not just like, oh, this is a really important thing to do. Hey, you should try this. Like, make sure you eat your vegetables kind of thing. Like, yes, mindfulness and that sort of thing is wonderful for clarity and efficiency and productivity, and also critical, and also a social responsibility for leaders who need to have this high quality decision making, clarity of decision making, people relying on them, that we need to take the best care of ourselves that we can. And that pause, whether it's on the weekend and it's getting out of the city, or it's taking some extra time for yourself. And I'm really talking about not self-soothing kind of, but true self-care, which can be, right, that breath before the meeting, or just checking in with, where am I right now? If you take one breath in a stressful situation, the outcome of your answer is going to be different than if you were to answer in urgency and stress. So I think a pause of any length, which is intentional, which is purposeful, which is, I'm doing this for myself, and I'm doing this to be able to feel and experience what is the, especially when leaders don't have, there's not necessarily a right or wrong. There's so much gray area, especially in innovation and creativity and driving companies, that it's really important to be clear and really important to take care of ourselves. And that pause, breath, or a weekend, or a week, or whatever it is, or a sabbatical, to me is a social responsibility.
Right. So Ashley, let's delve deeper into the framework you have developed. We know that there is a curated experience which is called Uncharted, and all of this is accessible through the Ashley Davis Collective, the website. If anyone logs on to ashleydaviscollective.com, they'll be able to go through all of the processes and the framework that you have created. But in the interest of getting the interest of our viewers, can you just tell us what this framework is about, how it was curated, how you planned on developing it further so that you can hand it down to other people who are interested in getting to know what it is and finding that aliveness in their lives?
Yeah. How do we find aliveness? Doesn't everyone want a little bit of that?
Yeah.
So it came out of, again, this 15 years in corporate and quite a unique number of positions that were all about impact and change making, but from really a shared values standpoint, as well as my work with the Aspen Institute out of the US.
Okay.
And a fellowship called the First Movers Program. So those people who are driving change within a company very much against, or somewhat against resistance. So people have to get a bit creative.
Yeah.
They have to be good storytellers. They have to be able to influence outside of their wheelhouse. And what I noticed among these leaders, and all leaders, was this sense of just exhaustion and like, okay, I don't even care about my answer. It's just this like, not a lack of care because we don't care as humans, but there's just so much going on and we're too distracted. So how do we bring a sense of the heart and our humanity back into the work? And then my own self thinking that, I was here to do social impact, and having my own experience of some sort of burnout. And so the framework for Uncharted is really the foundation and the basis of any work I do, whether I'm working one-on-one with clients or whether I'm designing, small curated slow travel experiences around the country, or working with the horses in groundwork and leadership and coaching, or anything from a week to a month-long program on Uncharted. And it was, what do I need in this moment? I need all of my basic needs covered. I need a nice place to stay. I need healthy food. And wow, it would be really amazing to have a coach or some sort of guide, not anybody that's necessarily giving answers, but someone who can really, really help me tune into myself and answer the questions of what am I here for and what do I want? And in what ways am I getting in my own way? Am I blocking my own access to this? Whether it's the next position or the next career or relationships with family. I mean, this applies in any way, shape, or form. And also then connected to my own experience coming to Sri Lanka, and what really gave me, how I got curious about my life, and what gave me the courage to make a big pivot, which I'm not saying anyone needs to make a big pivot of career and country in the way that I have, but a big pivot for someone could be you know, having better boundaries, self-honoring boundaries around their time,
Right.
so that a leader is less exhausted. It could be something like that, or yeah, maybe it is changing careers. And so the framework was developed, and so I've worked with global leaders from all sorts of walks of life and life stages, and academia, founders, entrepreneurs, career corporates, UN, and the framework fits really any intention that someone is coming into the program with. And so it was born out of wanting to support leaders who are navigating some sort of unknown, so it's called uncharted, right?
Right.
So
okay.
uncharted means it hasn't really been done
It
before,
hasn't been,
even if
yes.
it's just you that hasn't done it before, or it hasn't been done yet in the world. So yeah,
So
how do we connect with
you brought
courage?
up an interesting point where you said that you have met so many leaders from different walks of life in different industries with different values and perceptions, and we know every individual is unique with different values, ethics, perceptions, whatnot. How do you curate this program to fit each individual? Is it a common framework that everyone must adjust to, or are you able to tone it or adjust it here and there so that it fits a certain person's interest?
Yes and yes. So I very much encourage being different, and I very much encourage challenging and thinking about the status quo in different ways. So I would not impose a certain framework or process on someone, but I have found there are certain elements that seem to be proven to work well. But anyone that comes into the program, it is their own intention.
Okay.
I might help them, fine-tune that and decide exactly what it is that you want to be working on, just as you would with a coach or something. And so in that way, it's highly unique. And even if you have a group of people, you're still going to go through a similar process because the process is unique to you. And so instead of just talking, what I do is take people into different natural settings. And what you feel at a beach and what I feel at a beach might be different.
Two different
and
experiences.
so you're able to connect with your why, your intention, while that other person in the group is able to connect with theirs in their own way. You're going to make up your own meaning, they're going to make up their own meaning. I'm still going to be there with to guide with questions to help you on your way and the other person on their way. And so because it's experiential, because it's somatic, which means like felt in the body, it's highly unique to each individual, and the depth of the process as well as the flow can be adjusted. So I can kind of pick and choose and move modules and pieces around. There is like one way it sort of works from the inside to the outside, so very much focused on the inner self, and then we kind of walk out into the world. So there is a bit of a journey, but it can be adjusted for each person, and it works just as well individually as it does in groups.
Right. So we were in conversation with Ashley Davis. She is the founder of the Ashley Davis Collective, and she has curated a lot of programs, key of which is Uncharted, and she has worked with a lot of leaders from around the world who need to find their purpose, who need to step back rather, and find that motivation and also find that sense of aliveness. That is what her purpose is after she transitioned from her typical 9-to-5 corporate, came to Sri Lanka and started the Ashley Davis Collective. Thank you very much, Ashley, for joining me this evening and having a very fruitful conversation. I'm sure our viewers will also be intrigued and interested to get to know about this program that you have curated, and also potentially be a part of this program when they do get to know and hear about it. So thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Jayamal.
And that's a wrap of the News First special here this evening with Ashley Davis. Do take care and have yourselves a great day.